I spent some time over this last week looking at pictures of Tim Tebow crying on the field in Baton Rouge, looking at McElroy crying, looking at McCarron crying. I mean, that field has made a lot of quarterbacks cry. And, sometimes in relief, sometimes often in sadness. But I look at the fresh baby face of Tua, and I think to myself, where have you ever been in your young life, Tua, that's anywhere close to what you've never been anywhere in your life that could prepare you for what you are about to experience in 3 days? Because the national championship game, that was 50-50. Dude, that might have even been more Alabama fans in that stadium than Georgia. There's probably a few more Georgia fans than Alabama fans, but nothing like what he's about to. There's nothing that young man has seen in his lifetime that's going to be comparable to what he's about to face on Saturday.
Harris to the left side of the quarterback. A low snap. Tua's got it. Tua steps up. He sees an opening. He's going to run for the first down. 35-30, 25-20, 15-10, 5. Touchdown. Aloha. Alabama shuts out LSU tonight, 29-0. Ed Orgeron now 0-6 against the Alabama Crimson Tide in his career. The coach is standing on the eye of the tiger at midfield. The eye with a bit of a tear in it tonight as Alabama wins 29-0.
See, what happens is when you accept somebody in the Alabama nation, the Bama family, we embrace them, we have passion, we energize them. And then when somebody walks in and gives us a little slap, it kind of hurts when a family member does it more than an enemy or, Russ is one of us. And Russ came in last week and gave us a little hit in the mouth. Russ Mitchell, I hope you had a great weekend. Welcome to the game in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
You like throw red meat at the crowd and whip them up, man. Let's kick some tires and light some fires, man.
Listen, you've hijacked my show. I could not even take phone calls in the first hour because the phone lines were jammed up waiting for you.
People are going to have to be quick, man. No big, long phone calls and no repeating. Listen to what was said before and say something new.
I mean, you've hijacked my show. I couldn't even take phone calls in the first hour. I'm telling you, man. People have been waiting for like 45 minutes. All right, Russ. Let me get this out of the way. Just your overall thoughts of the game there in Baton Rouge.
Look, Alabama's simply spectacular, but I think it had a lot to do with LSU. I think, wasn't it you tweeted out what was the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Yes.
The good was Alabama, the bad was LSU's offense, and the ugly was LSU's offensive line. You played in that clip we were saying about quarterbacks that had cried on that field. I think we can add Joe Burrow to that list because that poor kid. That kid after the game, his eyes were so wide, man. There were moments where the Alabama defensive line, I listened to this one guy was talking about a 5-step drop. I'm like, 5? 5? The kid couldn't even get back 3, let alone 5. You have all these crazy corn dogs yelling, throw the ball. Throw the ball where? There's a guy in his face who's 6'5", running to take his head off, and nobody blocked him. So who is he supposed to throw the ball to? He can't see anything. Clearly a dominant performance by Alabama. But LSU's offense and Steve Ensminger needs to take as much responsibility for that outcome. Do you realize Steve Ensminger? And for those of you who don't know his name, I forgive you. That's the offensive coordinator for the Louisiana State University Fighting Tigers. His offense has now gone up against Alabama twice. You know how many points his offense has scored against Alabama?
Not many.
0.
Because
remember, it was Canada last year. He did it the year before when they scored 0. So, I mean, Alabama's good. They're really good. But, I mean, you get 2 shots at them at home and you score 0 points. You got to assume some responsibility for that, brother. I mean, you got to assume a wee bit of responsibility for the fact. I mean, and for those of you who think, y'all allowed, for anybody out there who's reasonable that was questioning whether or not LSU would be able to perform against Alabama, right? If you don't want people to question that, don't allow Arkansas to score 31. Don't allow Tennessee to score 21.
All right, Russ.
Because then if you do that, reasonable people will question whether or not LSU is going to score again.
All right, I feel like that you're doing like politicians, like a filibuster here. So I gotta move to the callers, man. All right. Here we go. Everybody, we've already warned everybody. You must keep it clean for Marquise and I to have a job, and we need a job. We need to pay the bills. Scoobs, you've waited the longest, man. Good afternoon. You're on with Russ Mitchell.
What's going on, Russ? How are you?
Hey, brother. How you doing? Congratulations on your big win, man.
I really appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much. And we won't be serving turducken today. It's going to be crow. So.
All right. Well, I'm ready. Serve it up.
All right, Russ, going into that game, what are the 3 phases of the game that you thought you were completely wrong about?
I mean, if you're looking at that, obviously people thought that LSU was going to be able to drive the ball, run the ball. They ran the ball for nearly 300 yards against Georgia. Georgia has a good run defense. So, when they're at home and they can run the ball for 300 yards against Georgia, you think they're going to run for something on Alabama, and they ran for 12.
Is there any asset of the game that you thought LSU succeeded at, or was it complete domination?
Yeah, I think the defense played well. The problem was, like the first quarter, I think was, and the crowd was loud, man. I mean, I was there on the field for when they beat Florida in '96. I was there when they beat for the earthquake game against Auburn. I mean, that first quarter was loud, and I thought that the defense played well. The problem is you just can't leave them out on the field for that long. They're eventually going to wear out, especially against a team as good as Alabama.
I'm going to wind this up because I know you got other callers. Russ, you were wrong. You got dominated. I'm sorry, brother. A big roll tide. But one message that you can tell other people that lie ahead, what they open their eyes to. Have a good day, Russ.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scoobs. We appreciate it. 205.
That was quick. That was quick, too.
All right. This next guy and Russ have met before. I don't know if this will be good or bad. Red, you're on with Russ Mitchell.
Red.
Russ Mitchell, most of this is your brain on crack.
How you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm doing great. I know you can't be doing great.
Well, I anytime you make a pick that badly, well, I will say it wasn't like my good friend Barrett Sally, who picked, what was his pick earlier in the year?
Ole Miss to beat Alabama.
Yes, at least I didn't pick Ole Miss to beat Alabama. By the way, I still thought Alabama would win. I just thought it would be under 14.
Yeah, but you didn't think that baby-faced quarterback and that baby-faced defensive lineman was going to eat y'all's lunch. We didn't eat their lunch. We made them wash our dishes.
I'll tell you what, Tua was very good. It helps when you're, when the other team's defense is stuck on the field for a long time, and he looked better in the second half. He threw an interception, but actually, that interception didn't bother me. That was a long throw, and he was trying to squeeze it in, and, it was ill-advised, but at the end of the day, it didn't affect the game at all. So, why not take a chance? But Tua did a very solid job.
And you got to admit, that was the loudest that stadium has probably ever been.
It was. If it wasn't the loudest, then it was darn close. And they were screaming into the second quarter. But, it just became clear. Everyone there was looking at each other like literally in the second quarter, there were people looking at each other going, is LSU going to score in this game? That was in the second quarter.
Hey, thing they didn't know and realize is, I'm going to tell you, we are the Clemson Tide, 18 bound with Tua and roll down Tide.
Thank you, Red.
Oh, why?
205-342-9904. We have one line available if you want to jump on with Russ Mitchell. We're talking. He agreed to come on and hang out with the best fans in the country. Crimson Conquest, you're on with Russ Mitchell.
Yeah, it sounds like Cry of the Tiger, little corn dog. And,
there was a little crying. Actually, no. To be honest with you, there was very little crying. You know, here I'll tell you something very interesting. Not only was people were just shocked. Most of the fans that were there were shocked. And another thing that I'd never seen before. There were Alabama fans walking out of that stadium on Saturday night that were like intentionally trying to avoid eye contact with LSU people because they were so embarrassed for the LSU people that they didn't even want to have to like engage them. You know, I saw these Alabama fans who would normally you'd yell and scream. They're like, yeah, good game. They were just walking by as quickly as possible.
Were you at the game?
I was.
I guess you had a long night. Anyway,
yeah, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I saw some photos where Russ had a beautiful LSU jersey on. Russ, was that?
Did you see the photos with the Alabama shirt too?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I mean, did I not see a beautiful? Where would you get that LSU jersey at, Russ?
You know, I have a paraphernalia for every team in the conference.
Okay. Wait, it was old school. Who was that?
Even the two stepchildren.
Who was that though? The jersey.
What'd you say?
Whose jersey was that? Because it was kind of old school when I.
That's mine. I have Alabama jersey too. I have LSU jersey. I have a jersey for every team.
Okay. I like it. I mean, I like the old school look. I did.
Anyway, all that narrative about stadium down there, that's Alabama's home away from home. We even get to wear our home jerseys there, and it's really Happy Valley for us. I don't know if you're aware of it, but you crunch the numbers sometime. Alabama has a larger winning record down there than LSU. You know, and
the Bear didn't lose for 20 years, right? 68 to 88, something like that.
Alabama ain't worried about Baton Rouge, please. I mean, all this narrative about smelling bourbon in the stands, you know, it's just pathetic. It doesn't matter, and it's obvious Alabama's light years ahead of the corn dogs down there. And I just need to know this: you got shut down, shut out. Now shut up. Roll Tide.
Thank you, Chris.
You know what? Let me say it's interesting because we talk about Nick and how back in 2008 when they changed the rule on how we put the ball back into play, he yelled and whined like everybody else, like Les, about defensive injuries and all this. But then what did he do? He went out and he hired Lane Kiffin. He recruited guys like Jalen and then guys like Tua, and now he's changed. He still says stuff, but I mean, he's running that kind of offense now. Until LSU adjusts, I was listening to all these people saying LSU doesn't have talent. LSU has 3 NFL players on their secondary. 3. There's 3 kids on that LSU secondary that will play in the NFL. It's not talent. They just run the wrong offense for this day and age. And until they change, they're never going to be able to beat Alabama.
All right, let's continue. Bama Bo, you're on with Russ Mitchell. Good afternoon, Bama Bo.
Good afternoon. Hey, Russ. How are you?
I'm doing really good, Bama Bo. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, I'm not going to give you a hard time. Your comments were, I think the rest of the country felt like it was a bad matchup for LSU. And I guess my question is simple. Did you really believe it was going to be close, or were you just trying to stir the pot?
Well,
I paid him to say it. I paid him to say it.
I did think it would be close. I thought it would be under 14. But, I thought Alabama would pull away in the second half like they did in 2016. I thought, that given the fact that Alabama had surrendered, I watched that game against Arkansas. I watched that game against Tennessee. Now, Arkansas, remember when they fumbled on the goal line, it's not like all their points came in the end of the game. They scored 31 points. And I thought that at home with the crowd and the noise and the ambiance, the pregame at that stadium was one of the best pregames I've ever seen down there in the Bayou. And they just, they ran into the – and something else, everyone wants to talk about Devin White. Devin White could have played that whole game. They still lose by 29 points.
Oh, exactly. And listen, I just had to know the answer to that because I just thought, it was a bold prediction that nobody else was making, and I thought she wanted everybody stirred up.
Well, Les Miles came in on Thursday and said that he was pretty confident, didn't he?
He did.
He did, yeah. So, Russ,
right.
I mean, what does it feel like?
Russ.
Thank you, Ben. To have something in common with Les Miles, Russ.
You know, it was interesting too. If you talk to Moses after the game or Nick after the game, they were shocked. I mean, it kind of ties into what Bo just said there. I don't think that even Alabama thought that it would be that easy. That it would be that easy because not only did they win, they dominated LSU. I mean, 12 yards rushing. I mean, and most of the yards, not most, but I mean, a lot of the yards passing came in the fourth quarter when the game was already over. So, I mean, if I'm an Alabama fan, I still think this team is a little thin. I'd like to see more players playing. Someone asked me earlier today, who's going to stop Alabama? And I said, after watching them all season and seeing them in person a couple times, I don't think the only thing that beats this Alabama team right now would be injuries. And I say that plural. It would have to be a series of injuries to be able to stop this team.
All right,
I don't see who else is going to do it.
All right, let's continue here. 3 final phone calls. Let's start with Robert. Robert, you're on with Russ.
Hey there, Russ.
Robert, how you doing?
I agree with you with the injuries part, and unfortunately, they are starting to accumulate more than we'd like to see. For appearing on the show, we won't put you in the Skip Bayless, Danny Cannell, and Colin Cowherd category.
Thank you very much.
Appeared on the show and was willing to eat the crow with the Alabama fans. So you're better than those guys. We'll give you that credit.
Thank you, because I am an SEC fan. Right? And I love all my children the same. I just didn't think Alabama was going to roll like they did in this game.
Oh, and because you're an SEC fan, that definitely keeps you out of the category with those guys. How'd you like Tua's Forrest Gump run during which he retweeted the meme out of him being his Forrest Gump run?
I mean, how could that not remind you of 2016, huh? I mean, a different play, not the same play. But, the pocket holds up. The pocket holds up for a good length of time, breaks down. He reads it, sees that he's got the opening, breaks for. I think it was almost the same distance, wasn't it? Like both of them, they were about 40 yards.
Yeah, I think it was. I tell you, the two best parts of the night was, of course, the Forrest Gump run by Tua with the knee brace, and the look on the young lady's face, which is all over the internet, of disgust at how poorly the offense was playing. If looks could kill, that cameraman wouldn't have a pulse right now.
Like I said, Steve Ensminger, the offensive coordinator for LSU, love him or hate him, but his offense has now played Alabama twice at home, and he hasn't scored a point.
Yeah, real quick before I go, maybe we ought to just play all those games in Death Valley because they can't score in Death Valley.
It's terrible.
All right, Robert. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Robert.
We appreciate that. Let's go real quick to Johnny in Coleman. Johnny, you're on with Russ Mitchell.
Well, we meet again, Russ Mitchell.
Johnny, how you doing?
Look, I'm happier than the Valley.
I bet you are. I bet you're very happy right now.
Russ, you just made a statement. You just did think Alabama just come in there and dominate. Well, I got a question to ask you, Russ. I'm not going to be as nice as the rest of them. Now, if you got a Stage 4's hurricane coming, you think it's just going to stop at the land and not destroy everything in its way? I mean, that's what Alabama does. So I'm giving you some pointers here, Russ. Think about that. We're a hurricane.
Okay.
And we're not slowing down. We're coming.
No, in fact, if anything, if you look at how the defense is playing, I mean, the offense has been pretty steady and a lot of guys are getting rest. But, I mean, you look at how the defense is playing. The defense in particular, the secondary, is getting stronger and stronger as the year's going on.
Well, see, that's where everybody made their mistake last week, was questioning that defense. But two things, and I'll let you go, Russ. How does it feel to be owned by Nick Saban? Because this ain't the first place crow you eat on this show.
Dude, I've been doing this for over 30 years, man. I've been wrong many times. Many times, man. Many times. So, I was very wrong. Very, very wrong on Saturday.
All right, Johnny.
All right, Russ, here's your last one.
Okay.
We found out today that there's a job opening at the White House because, AG, Attorney General.
Uh-huh.
And don't take this personal. I think you fit right in. They're full of bull crap too.
I love my job, and the last place I want to work is Washington, D.C.
All right, we got just a couple of minutes. We got to get Russ to another radio obligation. Chris in Pensacola, Florida. Chris, you're on with Russ Mitchell.
How's it going, Russ?
Chris, I would rather be in Pensacola, Florida right now, but how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm going to take it easy on you, too.
What's all these Alabama fans? You guys all talked smack following LSU's victory. Y'all wanted Russ, and we've just lollipopped up here for 25 minutes.
We have not lollipopped.
This is like a hug fest. Oh, we love you, Russ, and you're so
Chris,
sweet.
Go ahead, Chris. Don't listen to Ryan. You go ahead.
I will give him this. I guess you feel pretty dadgum dumb after saying that Alabama won't win by 14 points.
Well, I said they wouldn't win by 30. So they only won by 29.
If our kicker would have hit an extra point, we would have won by 30. That's a whole other story.
I think you missed 2 extra points, didn't you?
We did. Yes, we did. We're not very good at extra points. Those are a challenge.
No, we're not. We need to hire somebody from the golf team to come teach us how to hit putts. I mean, seriously.
It was interesting when they finally did score the extra point. They got a Bronx cheer from the Alabama contingent that was in the stand. And the Alabama fans, boy, I'll tell you what, loud and strong and proud, and they screamed the whole game and waved the pom-poms again, I'll say very polite. It was the most polite after the game. It was the most polite Alabama fan in victory I've ever seen, which, again, I probably attribute to the fact that it was just – I think there were a lot of shocked people. Even people that thought Alabama would win didn't think LSU would only run for 12 yards.
I didn't think so neither. I really thought that I was like you, and I thought it was going to be a 14-point game. I took Bama with the 14, but I was like you, Alabama was going to pull away. But I didn't think that we would see the pure and utter dominance. And I was speaking to Ryan on Monday. I mean, and I was going to ask you, this is the question. What did you think about the secondary, the young secondary, the freshman, Patrick Surtain? How did you got a chance to see him? How much he grown up and you got a chance to see him on the field?
Tremendously, and they picked on him throughout the game. And in particular, when they ran, they seemed to run to his side of the field. And he made a couple really good – I think he had a pass interference call that was warranted, but he made a couple really good solo tackles. So if I'm an Alabama fan watching that young man, tackle what are good SEC running backs by himself as a young kid, that makes me feel good. I got to say that this LSU offensive line will not be the best offensive line that you all play this year.
All right, Russ, the other callers are not able to get in. Let me tell you guys, you can find him on Twitter at Russ Mitchell CFB. At Russ Mitchell CFB. Find him there, Russ. Always a good sport. But let me ask you one question. Did you see enough? I know we're not allowed to reveal our vote. But did you see enough from 13 that he might get that vote that you have later this month?
He came into it clearly in my book at the top. He didn't do anything at all to make me think that he shouldn't be there. I don't think he had his best game. I thought that he seemed to favor his leg a little. He wasn't putting as much weight on his balls. He overthrew several passes, more than I usually see from him. So, but he still led his team to victory. that run was a really impressive run. Right now, he's, it would take a Herculean effort by somebody else to supplant him at the Heisman.
He's a father of dragons, lead SEC columnist at College Football News. He's a Heisman voter, a guest on SiriusXM. He's a guest on The Game, ESPN, NBC, Fox Sports, CBS, and a guy that we always love to talk to. Russ, we appreciate you, man. See, you understand how much we love you, and when you slap us around, it just hurts coming from, if it's coming from,
I know.
It just hurts coming from you. It is.
I know. I get it, man. I get it. I will say this. I do radio all over the country. I do radio and TV all over the world. And if you're an Alabama fan, you all should count your lucky stars that you have Ryan's show, because I think this is one of the best shows of any that I go on. So
thank you. Thank you, Russ. I hope you have a great week, man. Well, I hope we were okay to you. Thank you, man.
Enjoy the weekend of football and love each other.